June 1944. A storm tears across the English coast. Rain slashes at the half-finished invasion camps along Portsmouth. Floodlights tremble in the wind. Engineers hammer corrugated ribs together by lantern light, their tools clanging against steel that groans in protest. A young private squints through the rain. The half-built arch in front of him is shaking. The bolts creak. One man mutters, "We're going to lose it." The wind howls again, and the arch holds. The ribs flex, humming like a tuning fork, the shape deflecting the storm's fury instead of breaking beneath it. The private exhales, rain dripping from his helmet. He doesn't know it yet, but he's watching the birth of a design that will change the war. This is the story of the 6-hour building that could be shipped flat, raised anywhere on Earth, and turn open ground into a working base. When the United States entered the war in 1941, it had to ship not only men and weapons, but entire cities. Barracks, bakeries, workshops, hospitals, command posts. Everything had to be built on foreign soil. Tents were quick but miserable. Thin canvas that leaked in rain and baked in the sun. Wood was scarce. Concrete was heavy and slow. And so the Navy Bureau of Yards and Docks posed a challenge. Can you design a building that ships flat, goes up fast, and works anywhere on Earth? The assignment landed in Rhode Island at a small naval air station called Quonset Point. There, a handful of architects and engineers studied the problem until one drew a single curve across his paper, a half circle, self-supporting, simple, strong. They called the prototype the Quonset Hut after its birthplace. It looked strange, a silver half-tube of corrugated steel bolted to a wooden floor with 2 plywood ends. Skeptics laughed. "You want us to live in a barrel?" One officer joked, but the barrel worked. The arch shape distributed stress evenly. It needed no internal supports, resisted wind better than flat walls, and could be built by almost anyone. The first model went up in less than a day. 6 men, 6 hours, and a crate of parts. Panels, bolts, ribs, a hammer, and a set of instructions printed so simply that even under fire it made sense. A factory line was born overnight. 30 kits rolled out of Quonset Point every day, then hundreds. Each crate identical, each destined for a different corner of the world. An officer later said, by 1942, America was fighting on 5 continents. The Quonset Hut became the IKEA of war, flat-packed, portable, and endlessly adaptable. Loaded into Liberty ships, each kit contained everything needed. Steel ribs, floor panels, nuts, bolts, even the paint. It could become a warehouse 40 feet long, a mess hall 60, or a hospital ward stretching over 100. Each required no cranes, no specialists, just a wrench, a ladder, and determination. Factories in Illinois, Pennsylvania, and California ran 24 hours a day, producing 20,000 huts per month. By D-Day, America had shipped more than 150 million square feet of shelter overseas, an area larger than the entire city of Philadelphia. From the Aleutians to North Africa, from New Zealand to Normandy, those arches sprang from the soil like steel mushrooms. When troops arrived, they didn't find tents. They found home. Soldiers called them tin cans, steel tents, or sausages. They were sweltering in the tropics, freezing in the snow, but they were theirs. Inside, the Quonset hum filled the night, a metallic resonance that one engineer described as sleeping inside an airplane wing. In field hospitals, nurses pinned bandage rolls to the ribs of the walls. Chaplains held Sunday service beneath the curve, their hymns echoing softly off steel. Mechanics hung tools from hooks punched through the panels. At mess time, the smell of coffee and powdered eggs drifted through the arches. They were improvised cities, movable, expandable, indestructible. When the front advanced, the huts advanced too. When the war moved on, they stayed, like steel fossils marking where Americans had once stood. George A. Fuller, a quiet engineer with wire-rimmed glasses and a mind for stress loads, watched his design face its first trial. On a blustery morning, he stood beside a test structure as engineers aimed wind machines at it. The gusts hit 75 miles per hour. The walls bowed, groaned, and held. That night, he wrote in his notes. Within 6 months, huts built to Fuller's blueprints stood across the globe, from the snows of Iceland to the jungles of Burma, even within range of Japanese artillery. When the war ended, reporters asked Fuller what he was most proud of. He didn't mention awards or patents. He said simply, by 1945, over 100,000 Quonset huts had been built. They followed soldiers home. With the GI Bill came a new mission, housing for millions of returning veterans. Surplus huts were sold for $1 each. Some became classrooms. Some became garages, churches, diners, art studios. Others were stacked into makeshift college campuses, steel dormitories where the baby boom began. Even decades later, you can still spot them, rusting behind farmhouses, half buried in weeds, or freshly painted and converted into breweries, gyms, and roadside shops. They survived hurricanes, earthquakes, and neglect. Their secret? Simplicity, a shape that never forgets how to stand. America tried to dismantle its wartime machinery. Tanks were scrapped, ships mothballed, factories silenced. But the Quonset refused to die. Civilians lined up to buy the surplus huts. One journalist wrote in 1948, on every continent, you can still find them, some pristine, some skeletal. Their blueprints remain a case study in architecture schools. How a single curve of corrugated steel solved one of the biggest logistical problems of the 20th century. A design so strong and so cheap that the world never stopped using it. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't armored. But when the world was on fire, this humble art became a portable civilization. From Pacific jungles to English fields, wherever an American soldier found shelter, a Quonset hut had probably been their first, waiting, silent, ready. The huts outlived the war, the factories, even the men who built them. A curve sketched in Rhode Island became a symbol of ingenuity under pressure, a reminder that sometimes victory isn't forged in gunfire, but in design. The war was fought with bullets and bombers, but it was won by arches, bolts, and 6 hours of teamwork.